We're all told the same thing, right? The key to success is to just hustle harder, to push through everything with sheer force. But what if there's a smarter way to do things? Today, we're going to look at an ancient strategy for making progress that's all about timing and position, not just brute strength. Have you ever felt like that? Like you're just forcing it? You're pushing with everything you've got on a project or a goal or a new habit, but it feels like you're just spinning your wheels. You end the day totally exhausted, but you're not really any further along. That, right there, is the fast track to burnout. And here's the thing. The core problem is that we act like our energy, our time, our resources are somehow unlimited. But the ancient general Sun Tzu knew this was a huge, huge strategic mistake. If you treat your energy like it's infinite, you're basically guaranteeing you'll lose the campaign before it even really gets going. So in this explainer, here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with the real cost of forcing things. Then we'll get into the physics of momentum as a better way. We'll talk about fighting friction instead of battles, and I'll walk you through 4 practical levers you can actually use. We'll look at some real-world examples and finish up with your very first simple move to get started. All right, let's dive into this first part. You see, Sun Tzu wasn't just talking about armies out on a battlefield. He was getting at a universal truth about any kind of sustained effort. So when a campaign or, a project drags on for way too long, there is a serious price to pay. Sun Tzu warns that your weapons, think of these as your tools and your skills, they start to get dull. Your spirit, your motivation, it gets dampened. Your physical strength is just gone. And your treasure, your money, your resources, it all gets spent. And here's the kicker. When you're in that weakened state, other people can swoop in and take advantage of the opportunities you can no longer even see, let alone seize. So, this is absolutely crucial. Burnout isn't just about feeling tired. It's a state of total resource depletion. It makes you vulnerable. When you're running on empty, you can't adapt, you can't innovate, and you definitely can't jump on that unexpected opportunity when it pops up. Sun Tzu's ancient warning is, wow, incredibly relevant to our modern work lives, isn't it? Okay, so if brute force is the problem, what's the solution? Well, it's this concept Sun Tzu called energy, but we can think of it as momentum. It's all about creating, effortless power. And this is the central metaphor he uses. Just think about it for a second. The power of a giant rolling stone doesn't come from someone pushing it down the hill. No way. It comes from its position on a steep slope. All the hard work was in getting that stone to the top of the mountain in the first place. After that, gravity just takes over. The power is generated by its position, not by constant pushing. So let's get a really clear definition here. For our purposes, momentum is that effortless force you generate, not from more effort, but from better positioning and smarter timing. See the difference? It's not about working harder. It's about making the effort you do put in count for so much more. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, how Sun Tzu breaks this idea down. He talks about potential energy. That's like bending a crossbow. All the effort is upfront, stored, and ready to go. Then there's the prompt decision. That's just releasing the trigger at the perfect moment, like a falcon in a decisive swoop. Combined energy is about turning lots of small individual efforts into one unstoppable force, kind of like rolling logs down a hill together. And finally, understanding the weak and strong points. That's how you ensure your force has maximum impact, like a grindstone smashing an egg. You don't hit the strongest part, you find the weakest. This leads to a really radical shift in how we think. Instead of trying to figure out how to push harder against resistance, the wise general, or the wise person, focuses on removing the resistance itself. The goal is to reduce friction. Yeah, that grindstone on an egg metaphor is so powerful, isn't it? It's all about applying overwhelming force to a point of absolute weakness. This isn't about finding some worthy opponent to struggle against. It's about making the struggle totally unnecessary by targeting the little points of friction that are holding you back. So what does this friction actually look like in our daily lives? Well, it's that confusion from an unclear goal. It's a cluttered workspace or a really distracting environment. It's that one extra, totally unnecessary step in a workflow. And it can also be internal, right? That emotional resistance, fear, or just the friction that comes from trying to juggle way too many priorities at the same time. Okay, so how do we actually put this into practice? How do we become that general who wins before the battle even starts? Let's look at 4 key levers we can use to start removing friction and building momentum in our own lives. These are your 4 core skills: mastering at the start, actively removing friction, pacing your efforts, and setting boundaries to protect your energy. You can think of these together as the operating system for becoming the wise general of your own life. The greatest point of friction is almost always just getting started. So the first lever is to master the art of the start step. The whole idea is to make that first action ridiculously small. Like the 2-minute rule. If it takes less than 2 minutes, just do it now. This isn't about finishing. It's about making it so easy to begin that you can't say no. You're just giving that stone its first tiny nudge. Now, once you've started, the second lever immediately comes into play: friction removal. This is where you actively look for and eliminate the things that are slowing you down. It's not about pushing harder. It's about paving the road ahead of you. This could be as simple as decluttering your desk before you start or unsubscribing from those distracting emails. The goal is always to make the right path the easiest path. All right, the third lever is pacing. There's a reason Sun Tzu compared his tactics to the 4 seasons. There's a time for intense action, that's summer, and there's a time for planning and recovery, that's winter. Pushing hard when you should be resting gets you absolutely nowhere. Recognizing what season you're in and acting accordingly, that's a master-level strategy. And this leads us to the final lever: boundaries. Just like nature has its cycles, you have your limits. Boundaries are what protect your finite energy. This means saying no to things that drain you without a real purpose, or maybe just setting a clear end to your workday. It's all about preserving your strength so you can deploy it with overwhelming force when a real opportunity arises, making sure your resources are never wasted on pointless struggles. Okay, so how does this actually play out in the real world? Let's ground all this theory in some practical, everyday examples across work, relationships, and even our personal habits. I love this story about John D. Rockefeller when he was deciding where to build his first oil refinery. Now, the obvious, direct path was Pittsburgh, right there next to the oil fields. But he chose Cleveland. Why? Well, because Pittsburgh only had one railroad, which meant they could charge him whatever they wanted. Cleveland had 3, which forced them to compete for his business. See what he did? He chose the path with more strategic leverage. He created an advantage instead of having to fight for one later. That, right there, is the difference between forcing it and building momentum. And this is brilliant because it shows how the same principle applies literally everywhere. In your relationships, a gentle answer can completely de-escalate an argument, removing all that social friction. With your habits, just setting out her gym clothes the night before removes the friction of having to decide what to wear in the morning. And at work, you know the old saying, sharpening the axe beforehand makes cutting down the tree so much easier. It's all about preparation over perspiration. Okay, this is the crucial part: making it practical. All the theory in the world doesn't mean a thing without action. So here is one simple thing you can do right now to put all of this into practice. So what's your momentum plan? We're going to create a mini one right now. It's a way to apply this wave thinking to one specific area of your life where you feel, well, stuck. All right, just 3 simple steps. First, pick one goal where you feel like you're forcing progress and just getting nowhere. Second, ask yourself, what is the single biggest thing making this hard? Don't overthink it. What's that one little pebble in your shoe? And third, define one tiny action, something you can do in the next 2 minutes to reduce that friction. Remember, you're not trying to achieve the whole goal. You're just trying to make the path a little bit smoother. So let's just recap the big ideas here. Stop trying to force progress and start thinking about how you can build momentum instead. Remember that real, sustainable power comes from smart timing and strategic positioning, not just from more effort. Your main job is to act like a wise general and find and remove the points of friction in your path. And finally, start small. Just like that round stone at the very top of the mountain, sometimes a tiny little nudge is all it takes to unleash a powerful, self-sustaining force.